Yeah, hi folks. Yes, the Dern police, via Interpol, went on a fishing expedition looking for any excuse to prevent Avi Yemini from entering New Zealand to attend last week's protest in Wellington. And all of this happened just 24 hours after an anonymous article was published in a Dern media, aka the New Zealand Herald. Are the dots connecting? Anyway, folks, I've posted a link to that article in the description below, along with other relevant links. And hat tip to Peter Rhodes for this one.
Avi Yemini was going to come here. Now, the Herald and other newspapers report he was going to come here to catch up with Chantal Baker. The news organisations provided no proof of that whatsoever, and he was coming here with a mate called Rukshan Fernando. So, Avi Yemini was prevented by Immigration New Zealand from entering New Zealand, and news media, mainstream news media reports at the time here in New Zealand suggested that that decision was made by Immigration New Zealand. But Cam Slater at the BFD...
Yes, it was Cam Slater that broke the story.
Says he believes, in fact, it was the New Zealand police who intervened to stop both Avi Yemini and Rukshan Fernando from entering New Zealand and covering the protest at Parliament in Wellington. As I say, it wasn't so much a protest as a Destiny Church rally. Yemini, and what is it? Someone called him a social media personality. I think that's not a bad description. He was stopped at the border, though, and told that he did not meet the character requirements. The character requirements to enter New Zealand, and was therefore excluded. He was prevented from boarding his flights, and a police spokesperson was quoted in media reports here saying they had no comment on the Australian, but they were aware of the protest activity planned for Wellington. And a spokesman from Immigration New Zealand said, there are certain conditions temporary visitors to New Zealand must meet in order to be eligible for entry, and that the onus is on the visitor to satisfy Immigration New Zealand that they meet all of the requirements at the time they travel to New Zealand, including being of good character. Now, part of being of good character, and it's quite specific, is you have to have served in the last, I think, 12 months, a year in prison, or last 2 years, a year in prison. Avi Yemini hasn't. He wouldn't appear on the face of it to meet any of the bad character criteria. Doesn't matter whether you don't like his political views or not. He doesn't appear to meet any of the standard criteria for being turned away at the border. And Immigration New Zealand even admits it made the judgment about Yemini's character after reading an article by David Fisher in the New Zealand Herald. Yemini himself has described that article as a smear campaign, and he said immigration did not explain he said he was explained, he listened to the criteria, and he simply didn't meet those criteria. Well, what the BFD has done, it has found that essentially it was the New Zealand police who went hunting for Avi Yemini. And I'm going to read to you now the memo that the BFD is publishing this morning from Interpol Wellington. And I imagine Interpol Wellington is a cop or two in Wellington, New Zealand police, who get told they're the Interpol police. And I'll read the whole thing to you because I think, and we'll get this up on the website in the next 24 hours. It is from, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to get my glasses right and reading this off my phone. It's marked urgent, and it says new matter, Avi Yemini and Rukshan Fernandez. Subject, criminal history. Dear colleagues, so this is from Interpol Wellington to Interpol Calendar. Wellington takes this opportunity to extend its compliments to Interpol Canberra. Interpol Wellington has received information about the two above named who are believed to be Australian nationals intending to travel to New Zealand to join protest activity at Parliament scheduled on the 23rd of August 2022. New Zealand Police would like to stop the two from entering New Zealand and urgently seek any information regarding criminal convictions or any information tending to show they are individuals of bad character associated to criminal groups and individuals on far-right extremism groups. New Zealand Police do not hold any information on the two subjects.
The fishing expedition.
Remarkable. Further information. This is again in the police Interpol memo. Both subjects are associated to New Zealand social media commentator Chantel Baker and is expected to meet her at the protest in Parliament, posing as reporters. Avi Yemini is noted by commentators as a far-right extremism commentator. Avi Yemini has proudly called himself at a London protest in 2018 the world's proudest Jewish Nazi. Rukshan Fernandez is noted as a misinformation super spreader. Rushkin has been labelled in a hero of anti-mandate, anti-vax, anti-government movement. Interpol Wellington, the signature of the person has been redacted in this story. That is from Interpol Wellington to Interpol Canberra.
Now I'll pause it there for a moment and give you a bit more background.
What they're getting you for is that, and this is not pleasant, it's embarrassing for you, and a lot of people think worse of you. You had an argument with your then wife, you threw something, a cutting board, and it hit her on the head, and you got fined, I think, $3,500. You were not jailed. So on that grounds, people may not like you, but you did not breach New Zealand's regulations for coming in. And I think here's the issue. Whether people like you or not, whether they like your politics or not, it's about free speech. And what it seems to me is that they've picked on this as an excuse to deny a journalist they don't like, cheered on by the media of all things, to stop you covering a protest they don't want to occur.
Well, guess what? It turns out that Andrew Bolt was right on the money, and we now have the evidence to prove it. Less than 24 hours after the New Zealand Herald launched their campaign to have us banned, Interpol New Zealand sent an internal email on their private server to their Aussie colleagues that has since been leaked to New Zealand's largest and most popular conservative news and commentary website. The email, titled Avi Yemini and Rukshan Fernandez, Information Sought, Criminal History, reads, Wellington has received information that the two above named are believed to be Australian nationals intending to travel to New Zealand to join protest activity at Parliament scheduled on 23 August 2022.
Now, this is the same document as Plunkett has just read.
I think what that memo shows is that on the strength of, and I noted the Herald story was actually anonymous. I said it was by David Fisher. It wasn't. It didn't have a byline on it. I've got no doubt that that Herald story was based on information from people like Kate Hanna at the Disinformation Project. The Disinformation Project, a very shady organisation set up by the Prime Minister's office, answerable to the Prime Minister's office, and very reluctant to be interviewed by truly independent media like The Platform. Happy to talk to someone like Paula Penfold, who's in the pocket and pay of the government. So what we have now is not a set of rules at the border where officially available information is checked and people are rejected or not rejected. We have police, and I might add that Interpol are not allowed to act in a political fashion. It is part of the covenant of Interpol that you stay out of politics, domestic politics, religious affairs and matters. We have a police force, on the advice of a woke media, actively seeking to exclude someone from New Zealand on the grounds they do not like their politics. That they do not like their politics. Now, I don't know that in the normal course of events I would cross a road to relieve myself in Avi Yemini's pocket if his trousers were on fire. But there is a principle here. And the principle is we do not live in a Stasi state where a group of intellectual elites aligned with the political powers of the day can target individuals who they disagree with and get agencies of state like the police and international police forces to hunt people down and exclude them and impinge on their normal civil rights and their everyday activities. And I cannot be confident on the information presented in the BFD today that I'm living in a society that values those principles. So I think we have to have answers from the government about what Interpol did and whether or not the government knew. I hope to have Avi Yemini on the program tomorrow.
Here now, folks, I'll post that when I see it. Now, folks, Sean did ask Ardern about this story.
Prime Minister, do you have any comment on claims today that New Zealand police went on a fishing expedition looking with negative information about a social media figure in Australia called Avi Yemini, who planned to come here for the protest Destiny Church rally last Tuesday?
Is that it? Is that the Jacinta face? Is that the Jacinta face where she hears my name?
I am aware of someone who was recently denied access at the border. My understanding is that was because of criminal convictions that deem them ineligible for travel.
Those criminal convictions would appear on the payslip not to meet the criteria for ineligibility.
That's true, Jacinta, and you know that. It's a summary conviction. It's like the lowest conviction you can have. Not indictable and certainly no jail.
Also, a memo purporting to be from Interpol Wellington has been published.
I can't verify anything that you're putting to me.
Huh? Why can't you verify it, Jacinta? Go verify it.
Prime Minister.
Yes, folks, it's very easy to connect the dots. Ardern Media publishes an anonymous article, and the police use that as the basis to go fishing. And of course you know who's behind this, don't you? But let's not go there.